Did you know that some of the oldest human remains ever discovered were found in Africa, dating back over 300,000 years? Today, we are diving deep into African history, a story far more complex and interconnected than many history books suggest. We'll be breaking down key documentaries and exploring often overlooked aspects of this vibrant and vital continent. Africa is the cradle of humanity. Evidence overwhelmingly points to Africa as the birthplace of anatomically modern humans. Discoveries at Jebel Irhoud in Morocco, with remains dating back approximately 300,000 years, and Omo Kaibish and Hato in Ethiopia, confirm that our species emerged and evolved in Africa. This makes Africa not just a continent, but the ancestral home of all humankind. Let's move on to the ancient Nile Valley, the heart of one of the world's earliest civilizations. Ancient Egypt, flourishing along the Nile River, was deeply connected to other African civilizations, particularly Nubia, also known as Kush. The traditional timeline for dynastic Egypt begins around 3100 BC, with the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. But Egypt was not isolated, it had deep-rooted connections to Nubia, the Levant, and the wider Mediterranean world. Speaking of Nubia and Kush, these were major powers in their own right. The Kingdom of Kush, with its centers at Nopeta and later Meroe, rivaled Egypt in power and influence. At one point, Kushite rulers even conquered Egypt, establishing the 25th dynasty around 744 to 656 BC. Taharqa, one of the most notable Kushite rulers, left a lasting impact on both Nubian and Egyptian history. Now, let's sail across North Africa to Carthage. Founded by the Phoenicians in 814 BC in what is now Tunisia, Carthage rose to become a major commercial and naval power in the Mediterranean. Its rivalry with Rome led to the Punic Wars, a series of conflicts that shaped the course of Western history. Hannibal Barca's audacious crossing of the Alps in 218 BC during the Second Punic War remains one of history's most daring military feats. But ultimately, Carthage was destroyed by Rome in 146 BC, marking the end of its dominance. Moving westward, let's explore the great West African empires. From the 8th to the 16th centuries, empires like Ghana, Mali, and Songhai controlled vast territories and dominated trans-Saharan trade. The Ghana Empire, dominant from roughly the 8th to the 13th centuries, grew rich by taxing gold and saw trade routes. The Mali Empire rose after Ghana's decline, founded by Sundiata Keita. Under Mansa Musa, who ruled from 1312 to 1337, Mali reached its peak. Mansa Musa's legendary pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324 to 1325 showcased Mali's immense wealth and influence to the world. The Songhai Empire, which rose in the 15th century, continued this legacy, with Askia Muhammad I as a major ruler. These empires were not just about wealth, they were also centers of learning and culture. One of the most prominent examples of this is Timbuktu. Timbuktu flourished as a center of scholarship, particularly in the 15th and 16th centuries. Its famous Sankor Mosque and university system attracted scholars from across the Muslim world, making it a hub of intellectual exchange. Manuscripts covering law, astronomy, medicine, mathematics, and theology were produced and preserved, showcasing the intellectual prowess of the region. Shifting to East Africa, we find a region deeply connected to the Indian Ocean world. The Swahili city-states, which developed along the East African coast from the 8th century CE onward, engaged in extensive trade with Arabia, Persia, India, and later Europe. Cities like Kilwa, Mombasa, Zanzibar, and Malindi thrived as commercial centers, facilitating the exchange of goods and ideas. The Swahili language itself, a Bantu language with strong Arabic influence, reflects this rich cultural exchange. Now, let's address the period of European conquest and colonization. The scramble for Africa occurred relatively late in the 19th century. The Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885 formalized the partition of Africa among European powers, with little to no African representation. By 1914, nearly all of Africa was under European control, with the exceptions of Ethiopia and Liberia. Ethiopia, in particular, preserved its independence after a victory against Italy at Odwa in 1896, a powerful symbol of African resistance. The transatlantic slave trade, a dark chapter in human history, had a devastating impact on Africa. Beginning in the 16th century and lasting into the 19th century, it's estimated that over 12 million Africans were forcibly transported across the Atlantic, with millions more dying during capture and transit. The slave trade reshaped African societies, economies, and demographics, leaving deep scars that persist to this day. Finally, let's consider the period of decolonization, which reshaped modern Africa. After World War II, a wave of independence movements swept across the continent. Ghana, under Kwame Nkrumah, led the way in 1957, followed by Nigeria in 1960, Kenya in 1963, and Algeria in 1962. The struggle for independence was often hard-fought and fraught with challenges, but it ultimately led to the creation of new nations. The post-colonial map of Africa is largely a product of European imperial borders, rather than pre-colonial ethnic or linguistic boundaries, a legacy that continues to shape the continent's political landscape. Before European arrival, Africa was not isolated. It was linked for millennia to the Mediterranean, the Red Sea, the Indian Ocean, and the Arabian Peninsula. The Sahara, once more habitable during wetter climatic phases, facilitated the movement of peoples and technologies across North Africa and the Sahel. The Mali Empire's wealth was not just symbolic. It controlled parts of the Bambouk and Bure goldfields, making it one of the richest empires in the medieval world. Musa's pilgrimage, while legendary, demonstrated Africa's central role in global bullion flows. Timbuktu was not a mythic lost city. It was a real intellectual and trading center, with tens of thousands of manuscripts surviving in private libraries and institutions, written by local African authors in Arabic and African languages. Ethiopia's Christian kingdom was one of the world's oldest continuous states. The kingdom of Aksum flourished from the 1st to the 7th century CE, adopting Christianity in the 4th century CE under King Izona. The Kingdom of Congo, located in present-day Angola and DRC, was highly organized, with a centralized state governed by the Mana Congo, engaging in diplomacy with Portugal as early as 1483. Women played active political and military roles. Nzinga of Nongo and Matamba resisted Portuguese expansion in the 17th century, and Yasantawa led the War of the Golden Stool against the British in Ashanti in 1900. Africa also had extensive urbanization before colonialism, with cities like Great Zimbabwe, Benin City, Timbuktu, and Kilwa serving as centers of trade, culture, and innovation. The Benin bronzes were not primitive art, but sophisticated castings that demonstrated advanced metallurgical skills. African history is a tapestry woven with threads of innovation, resilience, and cultural exchange. It's a story that deserves to be told and retold with nuance and depth. The truth is clear: Africa was never a continent waiting to be discovered. It was always a vibrant, dynamic, and interconnected part of the world.